So hello everyone, it's the Cricket Connoisseur here and welcome to the final 2020 IPL preview show. On today's show, I'm joined once again by cricket analyst Part Singh Rao, and in this show we're going to be covering the team that I've supported ever since the first ever IPL in 2008, the Royal Challengers Bangalore. So first things first, Part, thank you very much for joining me on the show today, mate. How excited are you to see RCB in action in 2020?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. Yes, I'm really excited to watch IPL this season, especially when all the teams are looking so balanced. And today's episode is dedicated for RCB, and more importantly, RCB is looking balanced this year. And this is one of the teams I'm really looking forward to watch. So really, I cannot wait.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned balance. So let's talk about that balance first of all, okay? Let's look at the squad. So to kickstart, we have the captain Virat Kohli, AB de Villiers, Gurkratman Singh, Devdutt Padikkal, Aaron Finch, Moeen Ali, Isuru Dana, Pavan Deshpande, Parthiv Patel, Josh Philippe, Yuzvendra Chahal, Washington Sundar, Pawan Negi, Shabazz Ahmed, Umesh Yadav, Navdeep Saini, Mohammad Siraj, Shivam Dube, Chris Morris, Adam Zampa, and finally rounding off the squad, we have Dale Steyn. So looking at that squad, who kind of stands out to you straight away? Obviously, Kohli and de Villiers, but what else really stands apart in that RCB squad for 2020?
Sure. I mean, if you look at the RCB squad, Kohli and AB de Villiers were only the two pillars who stands out from all seasons since the time Gale has departed. And this year, if you look at the squad, what you see that they have very good young core, young Indian players, and not only Indian, young overseas players as well building into the side. For an example, Devdutt Padikkal or Shivam Dube and young Navdeep Saini, the fast bowler, and looking at the overseas young players like Adam Zampa, Josh Philippe. Oh, this side is looking really promising this year. And if they figure out right balance in the first few games, then they are in a good campaign run. Because the problem for RCB has been that they cannot find the balance early in the tournament and they lose the early part of the tournament. So within such a competitive league, you cannot afford to do that. And then during the last half, they have too much of pressure. So I hope they find the balance within the first few weeks and then get the team going. Because this year, the team is looking really strong. They have a good batting, strong lineup. They have good batting depth as well. They ticked the boxes in the death bowling as well when they went for big bucks for Morris. And overall, the squad is looking pretty strong.
Yeah, definitely. And we keep on mentioning it, balance. How refreshing is that as an RCB fan to finally have a balanced team? Like, I just want to say, huge amounts of credit have to go to Mike Hesson and Simon Katic for finally addressing RCB's issues, which we have had for the last decade, and that is death overs bowling. We have 2 or 3 options now. Chris Morris is a fantastic addition to the team, it really is. And kind of on that kind of wavelength then, I do want to start with that as a strength. RCB have finally got a bona fide wicket-taking option at the death, which we arguably haven't had for years. Fair enough, we had Dale Steyn in his prime, we've still got Steyn, but Chris Morris, just to give you his stats from last year's IPL, 13 wickets. He took he had an economy rate of 9.27, average of 23.53. But aside from the IPL, he really stood out in the Big Bash for the Sydney Thunder. He took 22 wickets and was the second leading wicket taker. And as I said, the most important aspect of this, he bowls at the death. He's a brilliant death bowler. He can partner with the likes of Dale Steyn or Mohammad Siraj, whoever we go with, or even Navdeep Saini. So I think that is the first strength for RCB. Would you agree with that part, looking at their death overs options?
For sure, certainly. And that was, since 2016, that was the department they were lacking. Because if you want to go far in this tournament, you need to have strong death bowling options. So now, if you look at Umesh Yadav and Navdeep Saini, they're great bowlers in themselves, but they're not really trustworthy when it comes to the death overs. They will not win you games within the death bowling option. So really a shout out to Mike Hesson, as you mentioned. He did a wonderful job in having Morris into the squad. It was an expensive purchase. I'm sure he must have had a difficult job to bring all the stakeholders on board to get the signing. And at the end, they got it. And I hope they make the most out of it. Second question, though, who will partner along with Morris? Because Morris will lead the bowling attack in death overs. Who will partner with him? can Navdeep Saini do that job 1 or 2 overs? And that would be an interesting watch.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk about that maybe in the weaknesses section, but we'll keep with the strengths at the moment for the time being. Let's also talk about their top five. Now, RCB's top five, no matter what combination you go with, is destructive, to say the least. The likes of Aaron Finch, Parthiv Patel, Devdutt Padikkal, Virat Kohli, De Villiers, Moeen Ali. You can bring in Gurkharat Man Singh as well. What do you make of that top five part?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the top strengths of RCB, not only this season, from all the seasons. And this season particularly, they're looking strong because they not only have top three as strong, but a good balanced 4, 5, 6 as well. So if I'm a bowling side, I will be really intimidated with this batting side. So the positive in this side that they not only have batsmen who can, thrash the ball around, but they can still be anchor. And if they have to chase a tricky total of 155, 160, they can spend some time on the crease. We have seen Virat Kohli doing that. AB de Villiers can do that. Now, aside from those two pillars, Devdutt Padikkal comes in. He can be the one of the player to actually give that run when it comes to strong power play overs or spending some time on the crease as well. And then after Virat and AB, you have Moeen Ali and Shivam Dube, two left-handers who can quickly count 30 of 10 or 12 balls. So overall, we are looking at a very strong batting lineup. And interestingly, they have great batting depth as well, which will be discussed when we come in the top 11.
Yeah, definitely. And again, so refreshing to see that RCB finally have options to partner the likes of Kohli and De Villiers, which is obviously a step in the right direction in my view as an RCB fan. And talking about the final strength of this team, I'm looking at the spin attack. RCB have not only, well, they purchased well already. You had the likes of Yuzvendra Chahal, who was their leading wicket taker last year with 18 wickets, Washington Sundar, Moeen Ali, Pawan Negi, and then they've complemented that quartet with Adam Zampa.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, Pat, I'll ask you about Zampa. What did you make of that signing? Personally, I thought it was a very good one. We needed depth. He's an extra leg spin option. We know how formidable leg spinners can be in the UAE. What did you make of that signing from RCB?
First of all, I was really, really surprised that why Zampa was not even drafted in any team before during the auction. But now whatever he did, it came good for him. And Mike Hesson again did a wonderful job of grabbing him before any of the other team can even look there. And they grabbed Zampa. Because we are looking at this side, we don't have other wrist spinners other than Yuzvendra Chahal. And in these conditions, if a finger spinner or a left-arm orthodox spinner will not give you that job, because they will play 7 games in the Dubai Stadium in Abu Dhabi. So I will not be surprised if Zampa comes and plays 7 to 8 games for this team. That's a very strong and smart buy, and I'd be very happy to see him playing in the squad.
Yeah, definitely. I completely concur with that. I really like that signing. As I said, squad depth and squad rotation, and if anything did happen to Chahal, we know that we've got a world-class spinner to fall back on. So a fantastic signing, in my view, from RCB. But of course, aside from strengths, every single team has a weakness. And of course, RCB have a huge weakness, and it's one that we've had for the past 3 or 4 seasons now. And that is a massive, massive over-reliance on AB de Villiers and Virat Kohli. So when we look at the stats, last season alone, they scored 42.55% of the team's entire runs. That is staggering, to say the least. What do you think about this season? We've mentioned the likes of Finch. They've got Patel, Padikkal, Moeen Ali, Gurkharat who can come in. Do you think that this will be a weakness, or do you think that the likes of those players that I've just mentioned will prevent this from being a massive weakness heading into this year's tournament?
Yeah, certainly. So what happens with Virat Kohli and AB de Villiers? They are those two pillars where everybody plays around them. But it could also be negatively seen because that you do not see small players evolving. You see only those two pillars who are bringing the value, adding the majority of the runs, as you mentioned. And it's really unfair to the other players that they do not grow around those two pillars. So this will be a very interesting thing to watch this season RCB has. I will not say it's a weakness, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge for RCB, other young players like Devdutt Padikkal or Moeen Ali, who's still finding a balance in the team, or the likes of Shivam Dube or Gurkharat Singh Man and Shivam Dube and Washington Sundar. That where do they come in terms of batting? And rather than just these two, making majority of the runs, those few players giving the important knock as well. This will be a very interesting challenge, and they have to overcome. And the side is looking really balanced. And adding an extra note on that, it's really, really good to see Mike Hesson coming as the team director. So I'm sure the clarity of thoughts within the players, and I'm sure Virat and the support staff have already figured this out, that other players need to perform. So it will be very interesting to see how they develop those players and utilize those players in different situations.
Well, yeah, that is an absolutely excellent point. And again, RCB this season, if they are going to achieve the playoffs or even make a finals run, they have got to get that mentality out of the way where they just say, if we don't perform, Kohli and de Villiers will save us. If the likes of Finch, Patel, Moeen Ali, Gurkha, if those guys can come to the forefront and really support the pillars, as you mentioned, of Kohli and de Villiers, then you're right, that won't be a weakness. It's an opportunity. And that's what RCB have to do early. They have to strike that balance. They have to get that mentality into their head and maintain that mindset throughout the tournament. And then I think that we'll see them make a strong playoff push. But in addition to that, well, we call it an opportunity or a weakness, whatever. This actually is a weakness, and that is expensive seam options. Now, I think this would have been more telling, let's say, in the IPL, where there are slightly more pace-conducive wickets than in the UAE. With that being said, let's just have a look at this seam battery. So we've got the likes of Chris Morris, who we mentioned. Fantastic wicket taker, but 9.27 economy rate in last year's IPL. You look at Umesh Yadav, in 11 matches, took 8 wickets, an average of 46.37, and had an economy rate of 9.80. And then finally, Mohammad Siraj, 9 matches, 7 wickets at 38.42, and an economy rate of 9.55 and over. And to kind of just, well, complement that, I suppose, with another staggering statistic, RCB did not bowl a single team out last season. So that, for me, is a glaring weakness. It's something that I think the likes of Kane Richardson probably would have added to. I also think that we're missing another quality Indian seamer. What do you make of that part? Do you agree with me on that one, or do you want to challenge that point?
No, I certainly agree. But again, there's a blessing in disguise that the IPL is played in Dubai this season, because Chinnaswamy, believe it or not, is a really difficult stadium for the bowlers. It's a tough pitch. It's a small stadium, and bowlers do not have a good day at Chinnaswamy, and it's bowlers' nightmare. So, not taking anything away from the bowlers, from the batsmen who perform there, but if you bowl in the right areas, you get some wickets, and that's what these bowlers actually failed. They did not bowl in the right areas, and then what happens with a stadium like Chinnaswamy, you give one margin of error, you get hammered, and the rhythm goes toward the batsman's favor. So this time the a strong edge is toward the bowlers. It's on their end, because the stadiums will be bigger. They are not as small as Chinnaswamy, and the pitches are slightly going to be on the turning side. So yeah, this has been a challenge or weakness in the RCB's camp so far. But I believe I can see it changing this season.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I will just spin this into something maybe positive. It's a massive opportunity for Mohammad Siraj to prove himself. He's had a really tough couple of seasons in an RCB shirt. He hasn't been able to replicate that form. So it'll be interesting to see how Mohammad Siraj performs this season. And he is kind of someone to watch. And talking of someone to watch, let's move on to our next section path, which is our player to watch. So for those of you watching at home, this is someone who we believe is going to have an interesting IPL and is someone for you to really keep an eye on as the tournament progresses. So Part, I'll start with you. Who is your player to watch for RCB in 2020?
I think the one I have to watch is, I think it's in the top of everybody's list. It's David Padikkal.
Yes.
Everybody would like to see him on the big platform. He is coming from a wonderful domestic season, wonderful Vijay Hazare, and he capitalized a lot on the Syed Mushtaq Ali as well, and he taking his team to the victory as well. So again, we are looking at a player whose future, not only for RCB but for India, young left-handed batsman, and it will be very interesting to see that how he comes along with the likes of Virat Kohli, Finch, and AB de Villiers, and bat there and learn, more importantly, learn and add value to the team. So certainly, this is the player to watch this season. And adding to that, he's an Indian player. He's not fighting for the overseas slot. So that would be it increases his chances to be in 11 more often than not. So it would be really interesting to see how much trust and faith RCB camp gives him, how much liberty do they give him, that you go in 5 games or 7 games, or these are your targets. So if he does on that, I think this is a player to watch out for in everybody's list. Having said that, this another player which I've added in my list, and this player's success is really important if RCB wants to progress in this tournament. And this player is Moeen Ali. I believe Moeen Ali has a very important role to play in the middle over, and he will get some games in the beginning of the tournament if he proves his worth, if he gives that knock which he gave England during the England-Australia series. If he does that, he's a left-handed batsman. He's a good batsman on the spinning wickets, and he loves to play spinners. And if he can give you that knock, playing around with De Villiers and show him the way to come, his success is really important if RCB needs to progress this season.
Yeah, and that's a phenomenal point. And just talking of Moeen Ali's season last year, actually, for RCB, played 11 matches, took 6 wickets and averaged 28.16, a fantastic economy rate of 6.76. So, yeah, not just with the bat, but also with the ball. Now, with regards to my player to watch, it's going to be cliche. I also went with Devdutt Padikkal. And for those who don't know this guy, he's absolutely sensational. That's how I would describe him. Just to give you his stats from the 2019 Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, 12 matches, 580 runs, an average of 64.44. This is a T20 competition, by the way. A strike rate of 175.75, a high score of 122 not out, which he got against Andra, batting at 4, I believe, as well. And he scored 33 sixes, which rather unsurprisingly was the most in the entire tournament. So for me, you've got to keep your eyes peeled out for him. I think looking at how Mike Hesson has been scouting him, he watched him in the 2019 Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. He's got to be given a chance to perform. And I think RCB will be quite lenient and patient with him. And if he comes to the forefront with Aaron Finch, Kohli and De Villiers to come, my goodness, Devdutt Padikkal could be a fantastic player to watch in 2020. But in addition to him, I also chose a bowler here. And I went with Washington Sundar. Now, Sundar in 2019 played 3 games, only took 4 wickets, decent average of 18.50, but an economy rate of 8.22. This year is going to be absolutely integral to him in 2 ways. 1, in order to keep him in the RCB franchise itself, and 2, to try and vie for that India spot again. He needs a big tournament. These are going to be spin-conducive wickets. We've mentioned RCB are going to have quite a few games in Abu Dhabi at the Sheikh Zayed Stadium. This is set up perfectly for Washington Sundar to have a big season. So I think him as well, he's definitely an option to look out for any RCB fans out there. And fingers crossed, he'll have a big tournament for the men in red this season. So moving away from individuals' parts, let's get into the interesting aspect, I suppose, of this preview show. And that is our predicted or strongest lineup for this season. So Part, I'll start with you. Who is your RCB 11 for the 2020 IPL?
Let me tell you first thing, Aaron, this is the most balanced RCB looking after the 2016 season. So this has been really easier to pick. And I'm sure there will be not a lot of selection headaches for the coach and captain to follow. So I went ahead with Aaron Finch and Devdutt Padikkal as my openers, right-handed and left-handed combination. Having said that, Parthiv Patel is missing out, so AB de Villiers will keep wickets.
Yes.
I also see him keeping the wickets in the regular net sessions for RCB, and he is ready for this role. And he also kept wickets in the Big Bash League as well. So Aaron Finch and Devdutt Padikkal as my openers. Number 3, man himself, the captain, King Kohli. Virat Kohli comes in number 3. And interestingly, at number 4, I actually promoted Moeen Ali to come at number 4. And the reason I did that, because Moeen Ali is a very good hitter of the spin bowling.
Yeah.
So if he comes in the middle overs and if he bats around with Virat Kohli, and even the pressure of a wicket fall, he can give you a quick boundary here and there and accelerate with the run rate, because Virat Kohli loves to take singles and doubles and hit a boundary here and there. And if Moeen Ali can build that partnership around him until the 15th over, then you see the AB de Villiers coming in who can hit the ball, who can hit the fast bowlers all around the park. Now, having said that, AB de Villiers comes at number 5 as wicket-keeping option. he's the player who's really everybody loves him, no matter which country you are from.
Yep.
And it will be disrespectful to say that he's not actually the player he was, because he can still prove you wrong. He can still give you that IPL, that valuable knocks, and make the team win. But I'd like to see him playing a finisher role this season, not a middle order batsman, but a finisher who comes around after 15th or 14th or 16th over and hits the fast bowlers around the park. Because last season, a lot of spinners have figured out his weakness, and they got him dismissed, and strike rate against spinners has fallen a bit as well. That's the reason for me. Moeen Ali comes at 4, and De Villiers comes at 5, and his strike rate in the last 5 against medium paces in the dead overs is over 260. So that's really important value he can bring in the finisher's role. So having said that, De Villiers comes at 5. Shivam Dube, young Indian left-handed batsman, comes at number 6. He can give you an over or 2 if somebody's having a bad day. If not, you can just make him play as a finishing batsman. Also, he has played for India as well, so he will be high on confidence and a lot of things to prove his worth, that a medium pacer all-rounder is worth all that attention he's getting. So, Shivam Dube comes at number 6 as a left-handed again. And then number 7, you could have Morris or Washington Sundar, depends on the situation, whatever you like to see.
Yep.
But I had put Chris Morris at number 7. Can he still hit the ball hard? Because the reason they picked him as a death bowler specialist, but if he can he can give you some valuable knocks as a batsman as well, it's cherry on top. You cannot ask for more. So I put Chris Morris at number 7, Washington Sundar at number 8. As you said, he's your player to watch out for. I really want to see that how Moeen Ali bowls in the power play overs, because in my 11, Umesh Yadav will bowl the power play overs. So if Washington Sundar, he was really expensive in last year's IPL in the power plays. It was unfair on him because, again, Chinnaswamy is the ground.
Yeah.
It's really hard on bowlers. It's really hard on every spinner bowler. But again, it's a season for him, dream season in the slow track wickets, prove his worth to RCB and potentially to the India selectors as well. So Washington Sundar comes at number 8. He needs a good season with bowl and bat as well. So Washington Sundar comes at 8. Yuzvendra Chahal as the leader of the spin attack comes at number 9. And then Saini and Umesh Yadav as my Indian bowlers to follow. So Umesh Yadav and along with Washington Sundar will bowl in power play, as I mentioned. And Navdeep Saini, as I said, has to play a very important role this season, along with Chris Morris, to give that depth bowling. If they do that, the side is looking really balanced.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this might actually be the first time that we've got pretty much the same 11, which in fact is a fantastic sign for RCB because it shows that there's balance and there's a core to this team. So I too have gone with Aaron Finch and Devdutt Padikkal to open. Kohli obviously at 3. I mean, who else is going to be the number 3 for RCB? Number 4 and 5. Funny that you mentioned Moeen Ali as a spin hitter, because in my notes I've put spin hitter. So it depends on the situation. If they need someone to be an anchor with Kohli, I'll bring in De Villiers. If, let's say, I don't know, one of the teams brings in 2 or 3 spinners and they're just going through the middle overs and you need someone to hit big against the spin, Moeen Ali. So I've actually got 4 and 5 interchangeable. I'll put De Villiers at 4 for the time being, but just be aware that Moeen Ali could be at 4 as well. So we'll put Moeen Ali at 5 in this circumstance. Number 6, Shivam Dube. Again, he's got a point to prove, and I can't wait to see him not only hit the ball, but also have a bit of bowl as well in Sharjah and Dubai in particular. At number 7, Chris Morris. That's a pretty obvious one. Hopefully he can provide some fireworks towards the end of an innings for RCB. At number 8, Washington Sundar. Number 9, Umesh Yadav. Number 10, Yuzvendra Chahal. And number 11, Navdeep Saini. So that is a fantastic balanced team, actually. I mean, I'm surprised I'm even saying that as an RCB fan. That being said, Pat, let's also talk about the bench, because RCB do have options. We mentioned this strength and depth and rotations that RCB could employ in this season. Who do you look at on the bench that could be utilised by RCB at some point in this season?
Yeah, exactly. And RCB has really strong bench strength. But the for RCB has been so far when RCB is on a losing streak, what happens? The player on the bench, they look better players than the one on the field. So they make quite a lot of changes, and as a result, the whole combination of playing 11 gets really uncertain, and it gives player the sense of insecurity that if I don't perform in a couple of matches, I will be dropped as well. So it's a very good bench strength this season, which I will come on, but I want to see them using the strength really efficiently.
Yeah.
Depends on the surface and depends on opposition's right-handed and left-handed combination, and of course depends on the ground you're playing in exactly. So you look at the bench strength, you say Adam Zampa as a very interesting, it's the first choice for me. He's a 12th man. If anything happens to one of the overseas players,
Yes.
he comes on the side. Or even if Moeen Ali is not bringing in that value, Adam Zampa can bring in that slot and have that extra legs wrist spinner along with Yuzvendra Chahal. And I'd really like to see Adam Zampa and Chahal
Yeah.
bowling from different ends, and that would be very interesting to watch because both the bowlers are not only economical but they're wicket takers.
Yes.
Each delivery they bowl, they have the potential to take a wicket. And in T20, we know that how important a wicket taker bowler is. So Adam Zampa is waiting over there, and then if Umesh Yadav is not performing up to the power play potential, then you have Dale Steyn waiting for power as a power play bowler. So he can bowl 3 overs in power play and one in the middle. And we all know what dismissal he did last year when he came as a replacement. And Dale Steyn. And if they want more variations, they can go for Isuru Dana as well.
Yes.
That's a very good pick by Mike Hesson and Virat Kohli, keeping in mind that you need a variation as well, and they do not have any left arm since the time Srinath, Arvind, and Aniket Chaudhary are not in the side. So it's really, really good pick, and Isuru Dana can come in a couple of games, tonk the ball in those surfaces and make the most out of it. And one prospect I'm really excited about is Josh Phillip. I don't see him getting the games this season, but if anybody's unfit, he can come at even at the opening slot. If Finch is not giving you that opening season, they can try him for a couple of games if they're on a good winning streak, or if they need some if they need some diversity in that attack. So Josh Phillip, again, not for this season, but the future seasons to come. Having said that, even in the Indian replacements for the likes of Mohammad Siraj, Pawan Negi, Parthiv Patel, and left arm spinner as Shabaz. So all these replacements are really looking really good because it gives the captain the luxury to bring in diversity and an element of surprise while playing the big games.
Definitely. And yeah, you mentioned Dale Steyn. I'm guessing everyone who watched the IPL last season, that ball to Suresh Raina was one of the greatest deliveries, not just in the IPL, but in T20 cricket. Please do go and watch that if you haven't already. And it's a fantastic point because when you think of that RCB 11, let's say they want to change out the openers. They've got 4 potential openers, even 5 if you're going to include Kohli. I'm not sure we're going to see him open this season. We've got Finch, Padikkal, Parsnip and Josh Philippe. Let's say Finch gets injured. You can manipulate it either way you want. You can go like for like overseas, bring in Josh Philippe, or you can bring in Parthiv Patel and bring in the likes of Adam Zampa or Dale Steyn.
Exactly.
So, again, that is an area, the bench strength is somewhere where RCB have improved massively. And again, it all comes back to that one word, balance. And that is going to be absolutely vital. If RCB can find the balance early on, they've got a team to go far in this tournament, in my opinion. Maybe not the favourites on paper, but definitely they've got a great squad balance, great squad chemistry, some fantastic match winners in there as well. I think it could be a decent season. They're my dark horse this year, RCB. And let's just expand upon that point then, Parts, about being a dark horse. Let's talk about our predicted finish. So to the final segment of today's preview show, where do you think RCB will finish in the group stage table?
So as I said a couple of times in this episode as well, that this side is looking most balanced after the 2016 season. And in the 2016, they were in the finals. They almost won the tournament. So this season, I'm really supporting RCB at least to play finals, not to win it, if not winning it. So yeah, RCB, I really like to see them as a finalist for this season.
Yeah, in terms of my group stage, I've got them 4th/5th. So I do think it's going to be a decent season. Obviously, it's not the strongest team on paper, but again, it comes back to balance. They've got a great core of Indian players, supplemented by some brilliant match winning overseas. So again, they're my dark horse for this year. Not favourites, but again, they've got the pieces in place, I think, for a decent tournament this year in 2020. So for anyone watching this at home, please do let us know your predicted finish. Of course, let us know your strongest lineups as well, and we'll react to those in the comments below. But just before we wrap up, Parth, do you have anything to kind of plug and promote? Any social media channels, for example?
Yeah, for sure. Guys, please follow Cricket Honestly. I have put the link in the description, and please follow Aaron's channel as well. Go like and subscribe if you like the content. And we have good cricket season coming up. And if you keep giving us that support, I'm sure we'll come up with a more interesting content.
Yep, 100%. So yes, if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like. It does help us a little bit. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to look out for some extra cricket content. We've got plenty coming over the IPL and of course the Big Bash later on in the season. But that wraps up today's preview show. Thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.